Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming.
Richard.
Hey Rich. Oh, I forgot to press the button.
He was here
Tell
before.
her.
He was here before.
I was out early.
I forgot to press the button to alert her. He's gonna be really mad. Okay.
Let's just start over.
Good evening and welcome everybody to the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education regular meeting for November 15th, 2016. Can we please have a roll call?
Mark Berry.
Present.
Jen Risen.
Present.
Dan Sherlow, present. Julie Gottschall, absent. Richard Hay.
Present.
Philip Hood.
Present.
Susan Ryder.
Present.
All right, so we have enough for a quorum, so we're going to begin. And we are going to stand and start Pledge of Allegiance. So please join me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, as we always do, we're going to begin with the opportunity for public comment at the meeting. And if anybody would like to address the board, please approach the podium and do so. I have one request. If this is
The podium.
the podium for Dr. Kurt Snyder. Dr. Kurt is the new superintendent of the NSSED, which is the cooperative of 18 member districts that we are a member of, and I'm a board member on, that provides special education services to our district.
Great. And I am just here to introduce myself, and I am new, as you mentioned, Mark, to the superintendency of NSSED, and at the point where I'm making rounds and trying to get out as much as possible, and so I'm starting my board tour with your board first, and just wanted to introduce yourself so you knew who I was, and our organization is greatly, appreciative of your partnership and your ongoing involvement. And then just a personal shout out to your superintendent. When you're new and you're new to the region, and I'm from Wisconsin, so I'm still an immigrant here to Illinois, you appreciate when there's a friendly face at a meeting who's willing to show you around and introduce you to folks and take that extra step, and then also make sure you attend certain professional development opportunities that are in your best interest, even though you're not sure they're in your best interest. And Gina's been that person, and so I just wanted to personally recognize and thank her for her support of me personally as a new superintendent to the area. So thank you.
And I want to point out too that in the 6 years that I've been on the board, the other superintendent had never taken the time to do that. And I was part of the hiring committee that brought Kurt to NSSED, and we're very excited to have him because he brings a whole new energy to the organization that it really needs. So welcome and thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, Kurt.
Anybody else like to address the board? Not hearing anybody. We're going to move on to the opportunity for anybody on the board who would like to add a discussion item or a future agenda item. If anybody has something they'd like to bring to the board's attention for a future agenda, please let me know. If you don't think of it now or would rather not say it in public, you can always email myself or Jean and we can bring it to a future meeting. Moving on, we now move to item 6, which is a presentation on the Robotics Club, which I believe is new to...
We don't have one yet.
Oh, good. So
That's what this is all about.
I'm not sure who I'm turning this over to. Is this...
Hello, my name is Gabriel Rickabaugh, and I'm a coach on Team Schrodinger's Bots.
Hi, I'm Sam Pasquesi, and I'm also a coach.
And we stand before you today to propose a robotics team for Lake Bluff District 65. In our current society, STEM is becoming exponentially more important to the students who are preparing to move into the working world. Technology is a vital and integrated part of our modern day society, and we need to prepare our students for this as best we can. I propose that we could help this learning process by adding a first LEGO team to our school district. Many of our surrounding communities have already filled this need and have many FLL teams and other STEM programs put in place. It will cost around $1,200 to start up a team. This price will go down in following years, seeing as you will already have materials and may be able to get discounts or support for being a school team. But this price is well worth it for the value and skills your students will learn. Not only does this program teach students the basics of design and programming, but they will also gain skills like teamwork, problem solving, and creative thinking.
So the team competes in a regional competition on December 3rd at Lake Forest Country Day School. And they're evaluated on their core values, which they'll talk about later, a project related to the league theme, and a robot game. So we invite you, as well as the LBMS and LBES principals, the PTO, and the Alliance for Excellence to attend this competition and to see what this group has accomplished in only 3 months. So here the team has a few words to share.
Hello, my name is Fitz Bielski. I'm a member of the team, of course, and I'm going to be presenting to you today core values. So core values are basically the way your team works together as a whole. And for example, at the competition, the judges will give you a task, and you have to basically solve that task using core values. Overall, I can say our team thinks that core values is one of the hardest parts in robotics.
So, my name is Tad, and we had to find a problem between humans and animals and try to find a solution. And we wanted to improve improve the technology of the invisible fence collars. And this was the old technology. And what we came up with was basically this for the invisible fence harness.
So, my name is Connor, and I'm going to tell you about the robot game. The robot game is where there are some missions, which are tasks your robot needs to complete. Each year, there is a theme. This year, it's animal allies, so everything has something to do with animals. We had to build and program a robot to complete these.
Hello, I'm Jonathan. This is our robot. If you have any questions, you can ask us later. I am also here to explain what's happening in the video. This is the shark challenge where you have to push the shark to its new home, which is that rectangle. This is how we got the pig and bee. The pig you have to put its prosthesis on, and the bee you have to land it on the hive. This is eating food from the fridge. We use the food to feed the animals around the board, which, like the gorilla, is the animals. We also have programmed all of these to go back to base. The base is a rounded part you see in the corner. This is the service dog. It's basically where we push over the fence so the dog can sit down. This, like I said earlier, is putting the bee on the hive to get the honey out, which you can bring back to base. This is feeding the gorilla. And this is one of the other feeding ones, which is we feed the bat. This is the milking machine. It is especially difficult because you have to push in the cow in order to rotate it around and get the milk out. You may not get the manure out or you subtract points.
Important distinction.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So you guys built the robot
Mm-hmm.
and then
Well,
programmed.
they did.
They did. And then programmed the robot to do those activities?
Yep.
And is this an after-school activity, or is it during the school, or how do you see it?
It's commonly done as an after-school activity. I know personally at our school we have just recently this year, I believe, gotten a robotics with physics class. So it could also be implemented as a class in schools.
And do you need a teacher leader?
Yes, you do need a teacher leader for a team. In our case, we had parental leaders.
So if a teacher, for example, is not up to snuff on the technology, you could recruit a parent to help in that case.
Mm-hmm.
And do you limit the size of the students that are involved?
No, I believe there is a set team cap at 15, but you can expand past that.
And have you had kids at the elementary, middle school express an interest in this club?
All of these guys did, and
Yeah, he's your brother, so I know he.
I also talked to a few other parents who said they would have an interest in having their child look into it.
It's pretty impressive. You guys did a great job in not
Thank you
only
very much.
designing the robot, but programming it and learning how to do that. And I presume you all work together, no big fights or anything?
We try to keep that to a minimum.
Good.
What grades are you guys in? How about the coaches? Oh, you're in high school? Oh, okay. Interesting.
So I'm assuming that all of you would like to start this club as soon as possible. The way this works in our school district is we have something called a stipend committee that has teachers and administrators on it. So Mrs. St. Clair and Mr. Blackmer are here, and they will probably be coming to the committee. We may need contact information for one of you, and one of you may want to come to that committee meeting to talk. And then if this committee decides that it's a worthy club, which I know they will, I can tell you that right now, then we need to talk to Mr. Khan, raise your hand please, who is going to need to find money.
He's the money guy.
He's the money guy, so we could get started and maybe even do a little bit of work and get it rolling this spring, because I don't really want to wait till next school year to do that. Would that be all right with all of you?
Absolutely. Thanks.
But I would need the commitment that all of you are going to help out, because we're going to need a lot of help from all of you.
Is this only for fifth graders, or is there an age limitation?
No, there's two different groups. There's one for elementary school and there's one for middle school age kids, so it's all inclusive.
Okay. And are you guys going to coach both groups? to determine?
To an extent, we're also hoping to get an involvement with our high school robotics team
That's a
in
good idea.
assisting in coaching some of the other teams.
I love that idea. Love it. Well, we will make a commitment to you.
Yes. We currently compete in the level just above the first LEGO League. We're in the first tech challenge.
We will make a commitment to get started. Somebody is going to need to email me contact information for our meeting that we're going to have in January. And I can promise all of you that we will do it. We'll figure it out. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Good job, guys.
If anybody associated with the LEGO League would like to go on home, no problem. We're going to proceed with our meeting. You're welcome to stay if you like, but feel free to head out if that's what you'd like to do.
You might tell him to stay. Our next part of our program is board member recognition. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And for the audience, I would let everybody know that today is actually National Board of Education Member Day. And in honor to do that, every year we try to think of something unique and different. And we know that you're all about kids and your decisions are all about kids. So we had, for audience sake, a member of student council interview each of our board members. Those kids are present in our audience, and they are going to come up with their principles and talk a little bit about what their interviews were all about for the board members. So Margaret and Nate, if you want to come up to the podium and call your students up, we'll get started on recognizing each of our board members.
Good evening. Our representatives are from Lake Bluff Elementary. You guys can come on up here. They volunteered their time as a result of being student council members. I have Oni Villanueva, Megan Pierce, and Scott Weston. I'm going to turn the microphone over to them one at a time. They'll tell you who they interviewed and some maybe reveal a secret we did not know about you. All right.
My name is Oni and I interviewed Mrs. Charlo. So my first question to her was, what do you do as a school board member? What I got was, basically what first comes to mind is lots of meetings and it's lots of info. Another question was, what do you enjoy most about being a school board member? Well, I heard likes to participate, enjoys her coworkers, and likes to represent our town and help our schools. So then I asked, how much time per month do you spend being a board member? She spends about 6 to 8 hours per month, and she's been about 6 years as a school board member. So the next question was, what are you most proud of in your role as a school board member? Well, the answer I got was, as a school board member, they don't really like to take credit for what happens, secretly proud of how you guys do, but she thinks the credit should go to the administrators and teachers of the community. Our last question, but not least question, was, what is one fun fact about you that nobody else will know about you? She really likes to play with art supplies in her free time.
Thank you, Gary. In case you missed it, she likes to play with art supplies in her free time.
Hi, I'm Megan Pierce, and I interviewed Mr. Hood. And the first question was, what do you do as a school board member? He said he represents the interests of all Lake Bluff citizens in making sure that the financial resources allocated to District 65 are helping to produce the best learning outcomes for its students. And then the second question was, what do you enjoy most about being a school board member? He said the opportunity to get to know the school district administrators and teachers and understand their work. He said I have a new appreciation for their professionalism and commitment to their students. And then the third question was, how much time per month do you spend being a board member? He said including meeting times, approximately 6 to 8 hours. The fourth question was, how long have you been a board member? He said since May 2015, which means about a year. So the fifth question was, what are you most proud of in your role as school board member? He said, I try to balance the interests of the school district students and the taxpayers of Lake Bluff. I hope to do this well by asking what I believe are important questions. These constituencies may have regarding issues facing the district. I'm proud of the work that was done by Lake Bluff community, the school district, and the school board to plan, finance, and complete the renovation of the middle school. It was very much a collaborative spirit which came together to get this project done. The sixth question was, what is one fun fact about you that nobody else knows? He said, I'm responding to these questions from the Applejack Diner at 55th and Broadway in New York City. And then he said another fun fact is that when he started a school newspaper as a sixth grader, he wrote an editorial about the school's need to construct a gymnasium because we did not have one for the indoor recess or concerts. My column was read by a grandparent who subsequently donated funds to construct a gymnasium for the school.
Thus began my career as a fundraiser.
He said the lesson here is to always dream big and not be afraid to share these dreams with others. People may share these dreams and step forward to help you.
Well, hello, my name is Scott Weston, and I interviewed Mr. Hegg. Well, my first question was, what do you do as a school board member? Well, he said, well, we try and make a great education to hire the perfect superintendent. The The second question was, what do you most enjoy about being a school board member? I most enjoy the interaction with the other board members, he said. By the most part, not getting paid. He's a volunteer. How much time per year do you spend being time per month do you spend being a board member? He spends 8 to 10 hours a month. He's been a board member for 3 years. What are you most proud of in your role as a school board member? He said he's most proud of that he gets along with every single other board member. And he has a business background, so that helps with the school district. What is one fun fact about you that nobody else will know about you? Well, just that he's trying to play bridge, so when he retires, he can play with everybody else.
So at the middle school, we did it a little differently. In fact, I have 2 additional guests here. So I'll invite Kathleen Turner and Lauren Hines, who are student council coordinators, to introduce our student council members who conducted the interviews on behalf of our students at Lake Bluff Middle School.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Turner. I'm one of the adult facilitators for student council. Lauren Hines is my co-facilitator. Several of our student council members interviewed our school board members. It was a really wonderful opportunity for them to not only get to know you, but practice formal emailing, interviewing skills, listening and note-taking skills, and just scheduling. They were required to come up with their own schedule to fit their interviews in. So thank you for giving them that opportunity. And tonight they're going to share some of the fun information they learned. So we have Taylor Brinker, Whitney Wisniewski, Dan Tennant, and Lizzie Hardy. Now you'll be hearing from Lizzie Hardy on December 13th when she presents Mrs. Gottschall's interview, but everyone else is here, so.
Hello.
Hello.
I interviewed Mrs. Ryder, and my name is Taylor Brinker. So the first question I asked was, what do you do as a school board member? Mrs. Ryder said that she provides oversight for the administration and makes sure that the taxpayers are happy with how the money goes into the school. She hires a superintendent and does follow-ups to make sure nothing too crazy happens. She enjoys interacting with the administration, helping them make good business decisions, and having to be such a big part of the school and being closely attached. How much time does she spend being a board member? Depending on the week, sometimes she can spend about 1 to 2 hours when it's calm, and in total she spends about 10 hours a month. A fun fact about Mrs. Ryder is that she was raised in a very small town with almost 900 people, and as you can tell, a lot has changed. And another fun fact that she might not know is that her son Zach gives me a piece of gum in every classroom. Mrs. Ryder has been a board member since 2010, and she's most proud of her revisions and hiring Dr. Sophie, who is described as a rock and a very great addition to the administration. So thank you guys so much.
Hi, I'm Whitney Wisniewski, and I'm standing in for Jahari Scott, who interviewed Mr. Barry. So the first question he asked was, what do you do as a school board member? He said the school district has a set of written policies that are put into place to govern the way the school operates, and it is the school board's job that those policies are followed as closely as possible. He also said that as the president of the school board, he has to run the board meetings and administer the agenda. He also manages the flow of how fast it goes and the topics presented, and makes sure that all board members' questions and concerns are heard. He also describes himself as the maestro of the orchestra. The second question was, what do you enjoy most about being a school board member? He said that the job is very meaningful to him and that he enjoys giving back to the community. He's also very passionate about public education. He says it makes him feel good to be working to make the community better. The third question was, how much time do you spend being a board member? He says before being president, he would spend about 2 hours every week. He says now that he's president, he spends about 5 hours a week or sometimes more. Sometimes it can be up to 20 hours. He says that he's very proud of the current board members and how they've come together and worked together as an amazing team. He says that they listen really well to each other and they discuss different topics. A fun fact that no one else knows about him is that he takes yoga classes 4 times a week. He says he's been a board member since May 2011. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dan Tennant, and I recently interviewed Mr. Morozin in the board. And I had many questions for him. One of them was, what do you do as a school board member? And he said he provides support for the administration for teachers and curriculum. And second question was, what do you enjoy most about being a school board member? He said it's a nice opportunity to contribute to Lake Bluff. The third question was, how much time do you spend being a board member? He said about 4 hours a week. The fourth question was, what is one fun fact about you that nobody else will know about you? And he was a meteorologist and was living in Spain as a meteorologist. The fifth question was, how long have you been a board member? And he said he's in his 5th year currently. And the sixth question, and final question, is what are you most proud of? And he said his children and his grandchildren. And thank you for your time.
I think we need to give all of our students a huge round of applause.
That was very nice, thank you.
I am going to ask all the administrators to grab a bag and bring those up. We have something small to give to our board, and I want to be able to explain them to you when you get them.
Hopefully mine's a bunch of gum.
Thank you. And for our students, if you want to go home and do your homework and get ready for bed, that is fine. If you want to stay for all the fun of voting on some of the things, you're more than welcome. In your bags, board members, we have a couple things that I want to point out. Oh, wait. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
By the way, our superintendent of the day is in this group, so you'll be meeting with her later on. One of the things we have for you is a journal that says, believe that together we can. And this is where you can take all your board members. So we thought that might be good to reflections. The other thing that I wanted to point out, there's a book in here called The Innovator's Mindset. This is a book that I think is just phenomenal. We learned about it in one of the professional development opportunities that I was in, and I was so impressed with the author that we booked him for an Institute Day already next year, and all of you are invited to come. He's coming September 17th. He's a national speaker, very out of the box thinking, great read. Our administrative team is also going to be reading this. So I wanted you to have a copy of the book, and I'd really love it if you could come to that.
Okay.
Finally, actually there's a couple more things for board member recognition. There's a couple little surprises in here. The board already knows that we nominated our board president for board president of the year. And I had to call him, unfortunately, to tell him we nominated him because we found out that they don't call me to tell him whether he got it or not. They call the candidate. And I thought that if they called Mark, he would probably tell them they made a mistake and really be thrown off. So I had to call him and tell him. We were notified that somebody else was chosen, which I think was a huge mistake on the part of Illinois Association of School Boards. But I do want to read the conclusion. Mark, the actual recommendation is in your in your folder, so you have it. But I want to read the final paragraph because I think it really is a good example of what you're going to see in the recommendation. In conclusion, we highly recommend Mark Berry to be recognized as the outstanding school board president in Illinois for the Thomas Lay Burroughs Award. He exemplifies what the Illinois Association of School Boards states as the best board members by his leadership in building cohesion on the board while allowing each board member to be heard, the unbelievable amount of time that he has spent working with the superintendent and the community on Board of Education topics, as well as communicating with other community leaders, the integrity that he demonstrates every day as he honors the needs and feelings of others, his recognition of the importance of our school district to the village of Lake Bluff, and finally, in quotes, his desire to serve children in the community and a strong belief in the values of the public schools. Kathy O'Hara, Lake Bluff Village President, says, in his quiet and unassuming way, Mark Berry has been one of the most successful unifiers of our community. He has worked consistently to meet with all factions, listens to diverse opinions, and seeks to always find common good to move both the school district and the community forward. Mark's positive can-do attitude and the guidance he provides under his leadership as school board president has been, in my opinion, made him the most effective elected school leader I have known in my over 40 years involvement in both school and community affairs. So Mark, we're very proud to have you as our board president. He's already looking at me funny. Copy of the records.
That's very nice. I appreciate all the thoughts and the sentiment. I certainly don't feel entitled to the school board, the best school board member in the state, the president of the state. There's so many districts who are working so much harder than we do for financial reasons and many other reasons to struggle to pay their bills and do what they do every day. But I do appreciate you guys and your thoughts. I feel like I was the right guy at the right time, and I'm fortunate to be surrounded by quality board members and a superintendent who makes my job very easy. So it's not really about me.
Well, we wanted to honor you. Your copy is in your folder, and we're very proud of you. Now, I have to tell you, along with Board Member Recognition Day, there's another surprise, and I honestly don't know what this surprise is. Craig asked to be put on the agenda tonight. He told me I couldn't ask any questions, which he knows for me is very difficult. So I'm going to turn it over to him as our final part of board recognition.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and Dr. Sophie, distinguished guests. It's been a while since I've been in front of you. And I've missed you too, believe you me. The project has quietly come to a close, and at White & Company, we like to celebrate our successes and the partners that we share that with. And in honor of sort of the close of the project, what I'd like to do at this point is to share this gift on behalf of the entire design team at White & Company, and to really to thank you and show our appreciation for your partnership in making the project a reality. So, Dr. Sophie, if you could come up here and represent the board and open the gift. And I have a story behind it, but you really have to see it first before I give you the story. So,
That's great. So fun. See who recognizes this.
I do already.
So it's really
It says, White & Company thanks you for your dedication and partnership in making the LBMS transformation a reality. And if you notice what's behind it, what we still need to get
none too subtle hint, I suppose, but I thought it was subtle at the time. Actually, what it is it's a cornerstone plaque that we had commissioned specifically for you and the district. Actually, it's by a spouse of one of our design professionals, design principals. And really the inspiration behind this was twofold. About a month ago, I was out at the school, and we were having one of our construction meetings. I think it was our last construction meeting, and Dr. Sophie asked Mr. Blackner and me to go out to the back of the site and take a look at a cornerstone, which was a remnant from the old building that was kind of out on the property, and see if there was brainstorm about some ideas that we could do with it. So the idea of a cornerstone Well, unfortunately, it weighs a ton. So we were originally thinking of putting it inside the building by the arch. That's we're going to be receiving roller soon. However, when Tom got involved, the reality set in about opening up the roof and knocking down walls to get this big heavy piece of rock in there. So I thought maybe something a little bit more manageable would be appropriate. And the other point of inspiration came when Stephanie Sharkey, who is one of our key design principals on the job, came out to the school to consult with Dr. Sophie about colors and artwork on the walls, and she came back and said, "There's nothing there to put on the walls. You got to help us out." And so, kind of putting those two things together, we came up with this piece of with this plaque, and we hope you enjoy it. We have a second part to actually put it on the wall. So, Stephanie's on maternity leave right now, so you're on your own about where it goes. But
We'll wait.
You can wait.
So that's an interior?
That is an interior thing. That's an actual piece of glass with that's etched and so forth and so forth. So
A reminder of work that we still need to get done.
But I do want to appreciate it. It has truly been a wonderful experience from the very beginning to the end. Along the way, I told Dr. Sophie how much I appreciated her partnership and really the guidance that you have all given us. This, in many ways, actually in all ways, was probably the most perfect project I've been involved with in terms of communication and the partnership, getting ideas and out to the community and the back and forth between administrators. So congratulations to all of you. You've done good.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
I'm just a phone call away whenever you
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, I'm done here.
No more surprises. That was very cute though, the kids doing their presentation. That was really
great.
nice. All right, so I understand there's no principals reports today, so we're going to move on and see if we have a PTO report. No. But I think we have an Alliance report.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Eva Wright. I mean, Wendy White from the Alliance is going to.
Hopefully, it's something controversial. It's getting a little too lovey in here.
Good evening. Happy School Administrators Day. Is that what you said?
School Board Day.
School
There
Board.
it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, happy.
School
I
board.
didn't know. I would have brought gifts. But Jean, you're such a teacher. You gave the gift of homework to everyone. Very clever.
I do that quite often.
So that first Lego League, I just wanted to say I've been to the competitions before. We just go to watch because they are amazing. The kids get all super excited and they make the robots do awesome stuff. It's really cool. Yeah, I want my kids to do it. They're like, whatever. I don't know. And we have some of those Mindstorms things at home, and I can't make them do any more than like. So I'm impressed that they programmed to do all that stuff. It's very cool. So I guess Alliance report. That's what you want to hear from me. Next Monday we will be voting on a huge list of grant requests. Huge. So we're pretty excited about that, and teachers seem to be pretty excited to settle into their space at the middle school, but we've got quite a few from the elementary school too, so we're excited to vote on those. So,
Bigger than normal?
Sorry?
Bigger than normal?
Yep. Yeah, we've got a lot of interest. There's a whole bunch of them. It's great. So this nice subtle segue into my next thing is so the week after Thanksgiving, we should be receiving our Alliance's fall appeal letter in your mailboxes. So if you could spread the word, we'll be looking for more money to fund all these grant requests. So we're excited about that. Things have been moving along great, and hopefully we'll have more than enough money to fund the grant requests for the teachers. That's it.
Why don't you plug your website and how people can donate if
Oh,
you want? Because
how
we're a
we
huge
can donate?
viewing audience.
I know. Okay, so everyone who's watching this, yes, It's at lb65alliance.org, and you can also donate through our Facebook page. So online, or you can wait for the mailer, or you can just see me anytime, and I'll give you a little paper donation slip as well. I've got tons of those. So
Thank you.
Thanks. Jay, anything?
No reports
No
from
report?
Jay or Kevin.
Okay, so we'll move past the next two items and go to the president's report. And I am going to do a little thing today. I'm going to try to do this as positive. I'm going to type in the password for my computer. Got to focus for a second.
While you're talking.
It's not going to happen both of those at the same time. Try to do this in as positive a way as I can. It's been such an upbeat meeting, and this is a topic that needs to be addressed. And I'm going to just be sort of straightforward and make sure that we are talking about this issue in the community. So today I'm going to be a little unconventional. I'm going to stray from your typical president's report, and I'm going to draw attention to an issue that's been bubbling up in the schools. Specifically, I'm talking about civility in our social interactions, or more specifically, the lack of civility by some of our parents in our schools. Maybe if we talk about this openly, we can work through it and bring it to the surface, resolve our differences. Over recent months, perhaps coincident with the elections, perhaps not, the incidents of inappropriate parental behavior have been on the rise. It seems as though some parents have forgotten about the golden rule and what constitutes civil discourse. This takes many forms, face-to-face, or on social media or email. Our administrators and teachers have been on the receiving end of an increasing number of these incidents. That's not right. Our teachers and administrators deserve better. They're not your punching bags. They work their tails off for all our children. We need to remember that. I think that somewhere along the way, some of us have forgotten that we are all role models to our children, and they are watching and emulating our behavior. The elections were divisive, and many of us picked a team. Some of us lost, some of us won. It's time to move on. The elections are over. The bottom line is that we all played for the same team. We are all Lake Bluffers. We all love our kids. We're all Americans. Let's act like it. Let's act like a team. When it comes to our kids, it's time to put aside the political team allegiances and model the behavior we all know to be appropriate. Let's remember the golden rule. Treat others as you expect to be treated. Talk to your children about civil discourse and how to be polite, even if you disagree with another person's point of view. Let's learn to talk it out, to listen and find common ground. Our administrators, our teachers, our employees, and our board members will always interact with civility. Please do your part as well. Thank you. My rant is over. That's all.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report?
Actually, I did not have a report until earlier this morning. We have had some issues in district with some communication child to child about the election. Some of it has not been very positive. Some of it's been scary. And so I made an executive decision today to send out an email to parents really requesting their help. In no way was I inferring to parents that they get it from home, because oftentimes kids get it from their friends or from the TV or from the radio. But there is some discourse going on in the schools amongst our students that has made some of them feel very unsafe in our schools, and that's something that we as administrators have to act on. It's important for me to share, and I did send all of you the email so you could see it. It was an email that really has been promoted nationwide amongst educators. In no way do we get involved with any political parties. We're nonpartisan. So you need to remove that from the picture, but I really had to make the decision. We cannot just keep continuing letting children be fearful at school, because there have been some kids that have been very fearful at school. So just know that that's why the letter went out. I will address any parents that have issues with it. We really handle acceptance and tolerance and respect for each other's differences through our social emotional curriculum, which we do every single day. We will not be doing any book selections about the election whatsoever. It's just about acceptance of each other and our differences. That's all it's going to be on. So you as a board need to know we're doing our very best to handle the situation in our schools. We are not unique. This is going on across the country. As a Facebook reader, I read about it every time I look. In fact, that's why I kind of stopped Facebook the past couple of weeks. But it has come to Lake Bluff, and I just think that it's our job as educators to remind students of our expectations that all kids are different and that we really respect and admire the differences that we have amongst our kids. So that's my report for the day. I want to welcome and thank all of you again for the work that you've done on the board for Board Member Recognition Day. And we're ready to move on for approvals.
All right. So we're going to move on to item 9, action with discussion. We begin with our approval of our tentative tax levy, and Mr. Cowan, I believe, is going to review this again for us.
Last meeting, I took you through the nuts and bolts of how our limiting rate is calculated and how and what the statutory methods are for figuring out our taxes. I'm just going to go through that again briefly and talk about the recommendation. Due to the Truth in Taxation law requires the board to approve a tentative levy more than 20 days before the final levy, so we'll come back again in December and approve the final levy. We spoke about this last meeting, so we'll have 3 opportunities to hear about the levy and gain input from the community. So I'm going to go through the budget, just talk about our revenue, again, go through the calculation, talk about our budgetary needs, and give you the recommendation. So just as a reminder, this is our budget for the current year. You've seen this many times. We have a balanced operating budget, so the revenue that we're taking in is enough to balance all of our expenditures for the year. Our total expenditures do exceed our revenue coming in, again, due to the building of the middle school. So the middle school project is in these numbers, and we're spending down our cash fund balance reserves on the middle school.
In a very deliberate and planned way.
That's exactly right. Just again, a reminder, most of the revenue for operating the district comes from property taxes, about 92%. When we calculate the limiting rate, so the district is subject to the property tax extension limitation law, which limits the amount of taxes that we can collect. Some factors or parameters that go into this calculation. The biggest one is the CPI, because the law is intended to give the district a constant or a consistent stream of revenue adjusted for inflation. The CPI this year was 0.7%, which is on the low side historically, and that would allow us to raise revenue by that amount. And just for perspective, last year was 0.8%, so we've had a couple years in a row now of very low CPI numbers. The way that the total tax bill is distributed among property is based on equalized assessed value. So we take the total amount of taxes the district brings in, we adjust it for inflation, and then we distribute it based on what your property is worth. So we add up all the property in the district, take the percentage of the value of your property over the total, and that's your share. That's how we figure out the share of taxes that you pay. Property values are going up again, which is good news. They were declining or being stagnant for quite some time. Last year we saw property go up by a little bit over 7%. This year we're guessing 6.2% for existing property. And then the way that the assessor assesses properties, this is not a year where they look at all properties and reassess it. They look at the housing sales over the last 3 years and calculate a factor to adjust all of the property based on recent sales. So property values on these off years tend to go up and down more or less in concert with each other. And again, this is just from the assessor's website, the data that they use to collect to estimate the 6.2%. In addition to the inflationary increase, we also get additional revenue from taxing new property. This year was an extremely good year for new property. In addition to the Target complex that went into Lake Bluff, there's a lot of residential improvement. So we saw over twice as much new property in the district. This is the most in the last 10 years. This is double what we've seen basically out of new property. And there's a couple of historical years. And this is kind of a gift because this is money that this is property we tax and money that we take in that we wouldn't normally get. And so in a year where inflation is very, very low, this helps us balance our budget because we're basically taxing new property. The existing property owners aren't paying this tax, but it's just fresh money coming into the district to help support our schools. And I'm going to jump ahead from this slide and show the graph, but the previous presentation focused an awful lot on how much can we tax and what's the limit, and you can kind of come at it from top down, what's the most we can tax, you come at it from the bottom up, or what do we need to tax. And because I'm up to my elbows in this all the time, it seemed very obvious to me to look at it with one perspective. Susan reminded me last time that I need to know my audience and look at it from both perspectives, so I'm going to talk a little bit about why I looked at it that way and why it's clear that the limiter or the constraint on our budget is due to the amount of money that we can tax and not on what we need to spend. So just a little historical perspective, this chart only goes back to 2010-11, but there was a referendum passed in Lake Bluff in 2003. At that time, the district had very low reserves and it was struggling to have a balanced budget. They went to the taxpayers and asked for a rate referendum for operating expenses and said, we don't have enough money to operate, we want to keep our teachers, we want to keep investing in our schools, we want you to allow us to raise your taxes. And they won, and the community said, yes, we feel our schools are important, we're going to allow you to raise our taxes and up to a certain rate, which they voted on. So then there was a deliberate effort to increase the fund balance because it was so low. And so the district would intentionally tax more than it was taking in, particularly in those early years, to build up the reserves, to increase the financial stability of the district, and to balance their budget. So fast forward to 2010-11, the district is still doing that and taxing at the limiting rate and taking in $1.5 million, $1.5 million, $2 million more than it's spending. And as you do that, it went from a very, very low fund balance up to a high of almost $17 million, which at that point was well over 100% of operating expenses. So that's kind of where we got to. And if you're in this kind of a situation, then the question is really, how much do we need versus how much can we get? And so the appropriate discussion is based on how much do we need to run the school and to the best of our ability. In the years since then, the board has taken steps to return a lot of money to the taxpayers. There was a very large abatement where the district reduced taxes by several $1 million to get to this point. And then we also, as you know, have been spending on the middle school. We borrowed some money, but we spent a good chunk of money, $5 or $6 million of our fund balance in renovating the middle school. So, and that's what these big bars here represent. It's a little bit misleading because the revenue from the bonds that we sold is not in the revenue numbers, but that's why we went from about $10 million down to $6 million in fund balance, because we spent for a little over $4 million of our fund balance, and then the rest was paid for with borrowing. So kind of fast forward to where we are today, looking forward, now our fund balance is within our target range of 30-50%, and our revenues and expenditures are balanced. So we're taking in what we think we need, or what we're going to spend in expenditures is what we're taking in revenue. This future projection we'll go through in more detail in December, but it's basically it's assuming that we levy at the limiting rate out into the future, and it's projecting some rate of inflation and level of new property. It's got our contractual salary and benefit obligations built in, and a lot of other factors like that. I do have some risk built in for reduction in state funding, but I've not built in any risk from pension reform or additional costs that might be placed on the district from some legislation that people have been talking about. So as you can see, if we do at this point assume the limiting rate going out forward, we're kind of treading water. Our expenditures are projected to grow at 2 to 3% a year, and our revenues are projected to grow at 1 to 2% a year. We do get some relief in the first year because, as you know, this year we're moving into a new building. We have some significant one-time expenditures that aren't going to continue, so that kind of buys us a year. But then going forward after that, I expect our growth rate for expenditures to outpace our revenues by 1 to 2% a year, which is why the curve kind of starts to bend down as you go out into the future. So from that standpoint, if you know you're limited by CPI, and we don't know what CPI is going to be, but it's not keeping up with what our expenditures are expected to be. So that's why I was approaching the discussion from the point of, revenue is really going to limit our budget, and we're going to figure out how much revenue we can bring in and then try to tailor our expenses so that we still have a balanced budget. So my recommendation for this year is to take the full 0.7% CPI increase, which is very modest. And we need to do this in order to grow revenues at the pace of our expenditures. I think our fund balance is now at the point where we really don't want it to go a lot lower. It's comfortably within our board policy range, but there are some significant risks coming in the future that we want to protect against. And then in addition, it's in order to capture all the taxes from the new property. We don't send a tax bill to new property and a separate tax bill to existing property. It's one tax bill. So in order to capture all the potential incremental revenue, we need to levy the full CPI amount. And lastly, even taking this full CPI the projection is that the full amount of the tax increase will be subsidized by this new property. Our debt service extension is going to be going down at about the same rate that our operating extension is going up. So existing property owners should expect their tax bills to be flat. And then pretty much the entire increase that the district will see will be paid for by new property. So we think we're being responsible to our existing taxpayers by doing this. Just to go through the numbers, we're again expecting a 7.5% total increase in property value. We've got our CPI of 0.7%, which is growing our existing extension by 0.7%. Then the impact of new property is between $175,000 and $200,000, which will increase our total operating taxes by 2.1%. However, our rate is going to be going down by 5% because our property values are increasing at a much faster rate than our taxes will be increasing. Our debt service extension is going to be decreasing by 3% due to our current payment structure. And there's still an opportunity to refund some of those bonds to get future savings and interest for the taxpayers. So our total extension will be going up by 1.4%. And again, our tax rate's going to be going down by close to 6%, which is the expected increase in our property values. So our existing property should see a flat tax bill, and our new property should be basically paying that increase in about $200,000 in revenue. And so that's the recommendation for the board tonight.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Are there any questions? I know, Phil, you weren't here for the discussion the other night, but if there's any.
I have a question that I apologize in advance. I didn't ask you this in advance, but if you can't remember the number off the top of your head, it's cool. So this levy is for expenses during the 17-18 school year, right?
Correct. It's the 2016 levy for taxes collected in 2017 in June and September, and we defer that June revenue to the following school year so that it's revenue for the 17-18 fiscal year.
And in that school year, do you know off the top of your head, and this is the part where I don't expect you to if you don't, the average increase to on our teachers' salary schedule?
In the 17-18 year, I think there's it's about 3.8% on average.
That's what I thought, something like that. So I'm raising that point to point out the discrepancy between CPI and that number, and to point out to the community and our teachers how much we value those teachers, but how hard we have to work to make those payments. So just want people to know that.
Yeah, 75% roughly of our budget is salary and benefits. Benefits inflation, if you know anything about healthcare, is significantly higher than CPI, and then our salaries, so 0.7% is pretty low. Our contract awards salaries to retain those teachers are higher than CPI as well.
Thanks. Anybody else have any questions? Comments? So we're going to do this again on the 13th, right?
We have to approve the tentative tax levy this evening, though.
Right.
So the 13th is the passage of the final levy, which then gets submitted to the clerk by the last Tuesday in December.
Great. Okay, so we just had our approval, our presentation from administration, and I would like to ask for a motion to approve the 2016 tentative tax levy as presented by the administration.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Richard Haig.
Yes.
Philip Hood.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
John Rosen.
Yes.
Dan Sherlow, yes.
Motion's approved. Moving on, 9B, the approval of the truth and taxation hearing. And we're talking about, as Jay mentioned, a hearing prior to our regular board meeting on the 13th of December at 6:45, where the community will have an opportunity to give comment.
Yes.
Second.
And the truth in taxation law only requires a hearing if you are going to be levying more than 5% increase in taxes. Our increase is 2.1%, but we always have a levy every year for full transparency for our community.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the truth and taxation hearing to be held December 13th at 6:45 p.m. as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second. Roll call vote, please.
Philip Hood.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
John Rosen.
Yes.
Leanne Sherlow, yes. Richard Haig.
Yes.
Motion's approved. 9C, we're going to delay to the next meeting, correct? Because we are still awaiting legal review?
Yes.
Okay.
And 9D in the one thing was incorrect. Every year that we're required as a board to approve the district report card, on the memo it refers to the IGA.
Yeah,
So that was incorrect in your memo.
But other than that, it's no big deal, right?
Yes.
So I assume everybody saw the district report card. Are we going to do anything to present that now? Or do we
No.
Okay. We talked about that last time. It was in your board packet. Does anybody have any questions about the district report card? All publicly available? Okay, we have a motion to approve the district report card as well as the Lake Bluff Middle School and Lake Bluff Elementary School report cards as recommended by the administration.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mark Berry.
Roll call vote. Yes.
John Rosen.
Yes.
Leanne Sherlow, yes. Richard Haig.
Yes.
Philip Hood.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Just, is that required that we vote on that?
Yes, it's required that the board approves the district report card.
What happens if we didn't?
I don't know, let's not find out though.
Yes, feel the rebellion.
All right.
Let's try.
I have other things we could rebel on, not that.
Item 9E, the approval of the annual statement of affairs. School code states that school districts joining agreements are required to complete the annual statement of affairs and publish in the local newspapers on salary schedules, vendor contracts over $2,500. School districts and joining agreements are also required to submit their completed electronic form to the Illinois State Board of Education. The agreement must be published in the local newspaper no later than December 1, annually and submitted to the ISBE electronically no later than December 15th. This is a formality, we do this every year. I think it probably takes Jay a lot of time to fill that form out. Looks pretty big. Any administration want to make any other comments on that? Again, we're required to vote on this.
Not something to rebel on.
No.
It's actually not required that you vote on it, but we
We bring it to you anyway.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Because I'm sure you guys page through every single letter of that document.
Richard does. That's where the extra 2 hours over me comes out.
Thank you, Fred.
Yeah, get up pretty early in the morning.
So, so 9E, may I have a motion to approve the annual statement of affairs as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jen Rosen.
Yes.
Leanne Sherlow, yes. Richard Haig.
Yes.
Philip Hood.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes. Motion is approved. 9F, this has to do with the approval of the intergovernmental agreement for the sharing of student data between Lake Bluff School District 65 and Lake Forest High School District 115 for educational purposes. Does the administration want to comment on that at all?
We reviewed this pretty thoroughly at the last meeting. Our legal counsel wrote the agreement. We're bringing it to you for approval this evening so the Lake Forest boards can approve in December.
Anybody have any comments or questions about that? Susan Ruffle-Brown.
I'm supposed to read my face.
Okay, sorry.
No.
Okay. So, may I have a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement for sharing of student data between Lake Bluff Schools District 65 and Lake Forest School District 115 for the educational purposes as recommended by administration?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Leanne Sherlow, yes. Richard Haig.
Yes.
Philip Hood.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Jen Rosen.
Yes.
Okay, so now we move on to 9G, the approval of the personnel report. And bear with me just a second. This week in our personnel report, we are talking about a leave of absence for an Angela McNicholas, who's a 7th grade language arts teacher at the middle school, effective March 24th, 2017 for the 16-17 school year. And this is an FMLA medical leave. Any questions or comments about that? We have a motion to approve the November 15th, 2016 personnel report as presented by the administration.
So moved.
Second. Roll call vote.
Richard Haig.
Yes.
Philip Hood.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Jen Rosen.
Yes.
Leanne Sherlow, yes.
Motion is approved. Our final action item of the evening is our consent agenda. This month, we're talking about approving in mass open session meeting minutes for the October 25th, 2016 regular Board of Education meeting, the November 8th, 2016 Committee of the Whole meeting, closed session meeting minutes for October 25th, 2016 regular Board of Education meeting, our treasurer's report, our impress report, our bills report, and our P card report. Would anybody like any of those pulled out so that we can discuss them separately? All right, so can I have a roll call vote? Motion to approve the consent agenda for November 15th, 2016 as presented by the administration.
So moved.
Second. A roll call vote, please.
Philip Hood.
Yes.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
Jen Rosen.
Yes.
Leanne Sherlow, yes. Richard Haig.
Yes.
The consent agenda is approved. Item 9, we're done with action items, so item 9 is a FOIA request. The district is currently working on 2 FOIA requests with our legal firm to complete the request. Anything you want to add to any of that?
One of them is Kevin's handling that is extremely time consuming, and all districts in Lake County received it. At the next board meeting, when it actually goes into your packet, I'm going to have him talk a little bit about what that is entailed. But it's like the other FOIA we had last year where the women never came to pick it up. This is a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of attorney time. So I just wanted to make that comment. Terry Engler's been wonderful. She represents many of the districts that received the FOIA. And she is working closely with Hodges, who is also handling the FOIA from other school districts.
And when there's a significant investment of time and money, and you question whether someone's actually going to even bother to pick it up, can we not prepare something preliminary for them and then ask them to get it before we dive deep?
Well, that's pretty much what Terry has done on this. Terry Engler, she has prepared. She has gone back and said, this has met the exemptions of not having to carry through on the FOIA. The woman has replied back. It's not that we're worried she's not going to collect on this one. It's being all done electronic. She just keeps pushing for more information. So Kevin is doing a good job working with Terry Engler, who is going from that angle. But we still have statutory time requirements to meet on that.
Anybody on the board need to?
So just one other thing, this bugged me last time, it's gonna bug me forever, I'm sure. Anyone can make this FOIA request and they have no obligation whatsoever to respond once we've made the request.
No,
Pick
they
it
have
up?
no obligation.
So what's the, I mean.
That would be a legislator comment.
Neck?
In this particular situation, this person sent a FOIA request to every school district in Lake County. The same exact FOIA request. So it's in every board packet in every school district in Lake County. The same exact one with the superintendent's name change, asking for the same information. And so every district is right now working to put together the same bit of information.
It's big discussion amongst all the superintendents and directors of special ed. And it's really something that I strongly suggest that you take up with legislators, because it's gotten to a ludicrous point and it really is very costly for school districts in time and money.
Can you say anything about what the cost is this time? Do you know?
We won't know for a while, because it has, when we get the attorney bills, that's when it really adds up. But all the redactions, there's student records in here, there's a lot of work.
Thousands of dollars, likely?
Yes. Yes.
So if you put in a minimum amount of work on it and the person who filed the information request was not satisfied, who would they turn to? Is
Attorney General.
So why not push the envelope that way? Just submit a few pages and see what happens.
So if I could just say, the burden is on.
The burden is on us.
It's on us.
It's not on them.
Personally, it's
right.
It's Jean and Kevin. It's
Our certificates are also up for that.
So
we have to follow the law.
Well, I understand that, but what if you, based on what Phil said, what if you responded with just an overview sort of thing, 2-3 pages?
And it went to the Attorney General,
Yeah.
and it puts our district and all of our licenses in jeopardy.
No, then the Attorney General would come back and say, make it more complete, and we do that.
It doesn't work that easily.
Well,
So I will, we'll get,
Right.
Terry Hodges is coming to talk at another meeting soon, and these are questions I'd ask her, but I will also share with you, I'm in agreement totally, it is beyond frustrating. You have a team of administrators that are huge rule followers, but I have to tell you, I think in this case, the law way overextended itself, and I don't think it's fair. I don't know how small districts are doing it.
Well,
I know
small.
some people that are doing all the redactions themselves. We're talking about high-level administrators sitting in an office for days doing redactions. And even then, we don't know if they caught all the things that should be redacted when you're talking about student records. So there's a lot involved in it.
What if every school district in Lake County just did a 2-page response? Then the Attorney General would have to go to every single school district?
That's what they would do.
Maybe that's what should be done.
They probably wouldn't have the time.
Right. Wouldn't have the time.
The
nor the
Attorney
money.
General wouldn't?
Well, I think that's fine.
I would definitely reach out to legislators around here, and I have 4 legislators that I'm responsible for working
So
with.
it's a
with
federal
my
law.
superintendent. So it's a law,
But it's a federal law.
and the state is required to follow. It's a statement. The state's
The state
required to follow
enforces
up
it.
on it.
I guess it concerns, 2 things about it concern me. One is that you can have an excessive demand in terms of the time and the financial burden to satisfy these. The other thing is the person doesn't have to be from the district, doesn't have to have any demonstrable interest in the district at all. So it's a way for someone who wants to just run up expenses for school districts to do that as a matter of nuisance. I mean, I'm all for transparency and freedom of information, but I sense that some of these are people simply trying to create a problem for the school.
Or they're trying to prove a point to their own school district, which is probably the case in this one.
Right.
But by proving the point to their own school district, they're hurting all the other school districts surrounding.
Well, it's crazy when there's such a shortage of funds for education in Illinois to spend that kind of money on.
But keep in mind that that's the current law now, so I would highly recommend you talk to legislators.
They just don't know.
Okay.
That's like talking to a wall. Sorry.
May I have a motion?
Hey, I have one.
One last comment, yes.
Okay. Just want to thank the board for their notice of the passing of my grandfather. I got that, I don't know, a few days ago, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry about that.
Sorry for your loss.
Any other comments? Anybody else? All right, so at 8:15 p.m., may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Trust me, I'm not your